Hello, friends. Welcome back to another edition of the PCS Podcast, the Pokemon podcast built by the community for the community. I'm one of your co hosts, Aaron, and I'm thankful to be joined by my co host and Michael this evening. On today's episode, we're going to cover the first major tournament in the Surging Sparks meta, the fun decks we saw. But first, Michael, it is Thanksgiving weekend here in the States. So, what are you most thankful for from Pokemon?
Yeah, I am thankful that Pokemon created Lugia. We just recently celebrated 25 years or something crazy like that of Pokemon Gold and Silver, which we all know Silver was the best. Um, yeah, I think Pokemon's just great. I think in all seriousness, I love that Pokemon has brought a lot of people together from all walks, and really just has an incredible community aspect behind it. There's certainly drama and some of the competitive aspects of it too, but just in general, the memories that have been made through Pokemon are something I'm always going to be grateful for. So,
Yeah.
how about you, man? What are you thankful for from Pokemon?
Oh, man. Well, first I would say like the PCS community. I'll touch more on that later, but like that would be first off is probably just the people and conversations that I've met um, through Pokemon is probably like the number one thing I'm most thankful for. Uh, but for me, is probably just the variety of Pokemon we get. And I've always been thankful for the games because that's probably where a lot of us first started. Probably the nostalgia angle, although sometimes they lean into it so heavily. But it is fun just with different stuff,
Yeah.
as I'll talk about in my kind of weekly Pokemon recap of just like playing Gen 5 so far removed. Like it's kind of like I'm not missing the old stuff.
That's right.
Just because I'm playing what it is, and it's not like, oh, they don't have a Pikachu, or they don't have certain types. So yeah, I'm thankful for one our community, but just community in general, and just thankful of them always having something going on, whether it be the anime, whether it be anything.
Yeah.
It never stops. I would say, because obviously that's how they become one of the most successful and
That's true.
successful franchises out there, basically. So
Yeah.
make loads and loads of money doing it. So they are a successful business after all.
Yes, they are. You can say that again. And I think TCG Pocket is a prime example of that. But I
Yeah,
digress on that statement.
yeah.
Cool, cool. Yeah. How about the weeks? Let's talk about everything that we've had going on up until this point. I know I've had a busy week, and it's another busy week coming. But Aaron, how about you? What have you gotten yourself into over the last week since we last chatted?
Oh yeah, just continue trying to get GLC archetypes. I did get another type rolled out, and at
Okay.
least
All right.
I got like the 70 scar skeleton, and then now it's like, okay, do we really feature Matang and a whole lot of basic energy, or do we change things up? So I might give a hint of the last one I built. We'll see. I'm still trying to figure out
Yeah.
exactly what I'd like to play. Uh, the Pokemon Black update, if I did not get anyone giving me a whole bunch of crap for this, so we did get through Driftsail City. The Torchstone Cave, excuse me while I choke on my own spit, is we forgot to load up on repels, and I didn't realize how long, because again, I've never played these games, so I'm really experienced them. And our son was with me on the recliner playing, and he just loved it because one, Team Plasma was there, and he loves bad guys versus good guys, very much going through a superhero phase at 3.5 years old. So he just kept finding, where's the bad guys? Where's the bad guys? And I probably heard bad guys maybe 77 times while I was playing it. But as soon as I got through the next Pokemon Center, loaded up on those repels, because I'm never going through that again, because it was a cave, a Pokemon cave, nevertheless. So the team is now Servine, Boldor, Darumaka, Sigilith, Panpour, and then I have a Dynamo because I know it can evolve into Electros, which I think is a relevantly like good Pokemon stat wise. So have that in. We just got through Celestial Tower, and we're gonna basically battle Skyla here for our sixth
There we
badge.
go.
So we're trucking along. The big news of last week, which the people that were playing in our Patreon team challenge, was Thursday. I tried to figure out Twitch
I'm proud of
and
you, by the way.
OBS. Yeah. Oh, man. Try to figure all of that out, with I was like, oh, this should be pretty easy. I can just, schedule myself on Twitch. I'll go a little bit, early. Maybe I'll play, some mill on stream or something like that while I'm getting ready for the matches. And then
Yeah.
didn't realize everything that it requires to actually run a Twitch. So we got there. Super thankful for Jeremy and Oscar because they were in there right away, like telling me like, hey, we see the video, but it's like zoomed in 100,000 times. So we made it work there. I did get to showcase. There was 3 matches going on, so that was kind of fun, just like whipping around between the tables, trying to feature the stream and enjoyed my commentary and bad takes of their lines of play or being very confused on their line of plays. I'm just like, I have no idea what they're doing, but they just got bailed out by that judge. So that was really fun. I think everyone enjoyed it, and we'll see. This week might be a little bit tougher, a little bit more family obligations, but we'll see if I can do that again here next week for sure.
Nice. Also wanted to comment. I'm proud of you, one, for showing your son the ways of playing the old school Pokemon games and the repel. I feel the pain. Like, dude, some of those old games, like I was telling Graham about this one time too, because we were playing some older Pokemon games. Like I'm talking about like old Red and Blue,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
Silver. And he's like, man, this game takes forever. Why can't we just fly everywhere? Like, why can't we ride a Pokemon? Because like this is after you just finished Let's Go Pikachu, where you actually can like ride and fly on the Pokemon.
Yeah.
And like obviously in Scarlet and Violet, you can just warp to like, I mean, sure you could fly and things like that, but it took forever to get to that point back in the day. So like these kids these days getting the new Pokemon games, they don't know the struggle that we went through as kids going through, and just the never ending drudgery of getting to the next city, which is crazy. So kudos to you for showing your son the ways of.
Oh yeah. I mean, we played for almost an hour and a half.
That's
I
awesome.
was trying to figure out where to go, and it'd be like encounter, run away, because it's like, all right, I've already, I already got max, what I felt like is good for levels in the old gens, and it was just a grind. And as soon as I realized when my third repel that I had went away, I'm like, oh no, I'm already like 3 basement floors in or whatever, and I know I have to wind back around. I have to battle N. That was
Yep.
He was really obsessed with N, asking where he was going. I was like, well, we're gonna have to find him again. We'll find out more, but yeah, it was a grind. So as soon as I get in, got like 10
Good for
super
you.
repels, and I'm going to just never do that again. But I do. I don't necessarily say that that is the better way to do it, but I do like their like general like well-being updates of stuff like that, of like
Yeah.
TM's not expired, and I guess Gen
Agree.
5 even had it too. Like I didn't know, like I taught something dig, I'm like, oh, dig is not just a ×1. I can
Right. You can
teach it to other
reuse it.
stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
that must have been somewhere an update around Gen 5, so I did
Yeah.
appreciate that. But yeah, I'm excited. It's like I said, it's much more of a time to dedicate through, and just not knowing exactly what to do has brought kind of just a joy of playing. We'll see if we can beat the Elite Four and end, or whatever how the end of the game goes before Baby 2 comes out
You got
about a
this.
month from now. So
Yep.
I'm hoping to try to yeah, like I said, those 45 minutes a day is what I'm trying to do.
Awesome. You got
All
this.
right. Well, we had Sacramento, and I know we had a few players in our Discord head out there. It was the Surging Sparks meta, and I believe we have our day one meta up here, which I don't think we were totally wrong, but we did have Regidrago, which felt like it was probably going to take over, number one. Um, I was thinking about putting out a tweet, and I wish I did, because then I would have kind of gone through. But like, I was like, I don't think anything gets really close to 15%, because I think it's just so widespread. There's so many new toys. People, the meta, like I said, it's the first big tournament with the meta, so no one knew exactly where it was going to go through. We see a lot of the same. So Regidrago was the number one deck. We only had, yeah, just under 1,700 players. So it was unfortunately only 8 rounds. But Regidrago came in number one, just at 13.3%. We did see Raging Bolt not be the first deck since it would have been Worlds, right? Because it was number one at Baltimore, and it was
I
number one
think so.
everywhere.
Yeah.
I think it's maintained that. So obviously he has a pretty darn good Regidrago matchup. We saw Charizard move up to number 3. I think Charizard still being such a good one Pidgeot and Charizard, like two really really broken stage 2 cards. So I feel like every format Charizard kind of has that initial buff to see what goes through, and it showcased all right. We had the Lost Zone box featuring Pikachu, or I think it's probably the primary way to play it. With that came all the way up to fourth at just 6.5%. Lugia tumbled, I guess not super down because it's always been around what eight 7 to 8,
Yeah,
9,
no,
10% at a high. So
at its highest, maybe, yeah.
yeah. So that's at 5%, still hanging around. Like I said, still viable deck. And then Gardevoir, um, actually shockingly sneaked up in there. I don't know if that
Unfortunately.
was the Gardevoir. We didn't really see it on stream hardly ever. I would assume it might be more of the traditional Gardevoir with your Screamtail and Drifloon.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
like
would.
the slower version of Guardy, not necessarily the Banette Guardy.
Yeah, I would expect so as well. But of course, we don't have a ton of lists yet on Limitless, so TBD. And I've not seen a
Yeah,
ton, so
yeah. We'll see that they haven't done the best of the rest, so that kind of is
yeah,
unfortunate. I feel like the best of the rest could have just continued to go and go and go because it. I think with this meta, it is really challenging, kind of maybe finding yours because there are so many archetypes out there, and especially if you're just queuing up to TCG Live, you're just going to hit so many different variants, and probably what it might have felt like in Sacramento if you weren't at the top tables because that's where a lot of Regidrago was at. But we'll get into that. So then we have day 2, and we see Regidrago did very well, picked up about almost 4%, so just over 17%. Then we had Raging Bolt having just a little bit. This is what Brett played in the Discord. I know he played Raging Bolt. We had Charizard, increase a little bit to 9.5%. Lost Zone box. Oh my god, I didn't realize that was almost the exact conversion, but
yeah,
6.58% in day 2, and it was 6.656.
yeah.
Excuse me, 6.56 in day 1. So almost exactly, on the same meta share. Gardevoir increased. We saw Gholdengo here, which we did talk about with. No, we didn't talk about with the Energy Search Pro. I think that was more of a Discord discussion. Like it feels really good with that. We
Mhm.
saw that round out our 6th place medalist in day 2. Any big surprises? Not really.
No, I mean, I think we did talk a little bit about the Energy Search Pro when we were talking
Yeah,
through it. So yeah, Goldango doing well because it's got some buffs doesn't really surprise me. Um, and I think we can expect it to pick up a little bit more too. Obviously, as with everything, if that happens, or like let's for example, we haven't gotten to it yet, but we all know Miraidon won.
yeah,
So naturally, we're probably going to see more Miraidon, which means Charizard's probably going to pick up. So it's just the ebb
yep,
and flows that we'll see here. But yeah, nothing too crazy. I think it's pretty telling where the top 3 decks in day 1 converted and kept their exact same position, and well, actually the top 4
yeah.
decks. So
Stayed exactly the
yep,
same. And
yep,
Gardevoir moved up a slot.
mm-hmm,
Lugia dropped out because we'll probably get into the reason why. And then Golden Go obviously featured. And like I said, Golden Go got on stream a couple times, and the Energy Search Pro is pretty busted.
yeah,
And the Cypher Maniacs and like the ear to go find like your superior energy retrievals, like
right.
just
You just see so
it
many
is, and
cards.
it's just a really really fun deck. I always enjoyed playing it, and that's probably something I'm gonna have to pick back up just because I haven't played with the Energy Search Pro. Like all
Yeah,
mine has been the Hyper Aroma, just because I
right.
felt like that was really fun
Yeah,
getting through. But obviously the new A spec is gonna probably breathe life into that archetype.
yeah.
So then we have the top 8, and unfortunately, Michael, not a lot of different things to talk about here.
No, not
So
really.
we had 5
Kind of boring.
Regidrago. Yeah, we had 5 Regidrago feature in the top 8. After I suppose there was a asymmetrical cut, but with what we have, which is a little bit weird because we're basically 24 hours removed, and usually Limitless has a bit more, but we'll see. Obviously it was well into their early morning Monday, so maybe just Robin hasn't quite got everything
Right.
there. But we see this. We see the one Golden Go, pretty cool, and then we see obviously first and second place was Miraidon. I think the day 2 stream I saw a tweet that I should have pinned, but I think every single match that they showcase in day two, only one time was there not a Regidrago or Miraidon um, listed. And wow, so you're
Pretty
just kind of
crazy.
seeing a lot of the same players, right? But obviously, when you're at the top, you're probably going to be featured on stream, especially now that they changed a little bit of the stream. We did get to see round 11 this time instead of like right into round 12 and then into Top Cut. So we did get one extra round in there, but we didn't get that round in day one because of the total number of players. I think Miraidon was a really good meta call specifically for this, which you basically kind of have your Regidragos more than likely, on average, beating your Charizards, right? So that's keeping that at play because that's not a very good, especially the Miraidons that we saw. This was not ever attacking with the Terra Pikachu EX.
Right, right.
So it's keeping that on. Raging Bolt, I'm trying to think if that ever was sniffing around the top tables. I'm trying to remember if it was on stream in day one. I think relatively early on, we definitely saw some Lost Box. But even then, watching Andrew Hedrick play that early on, um, it still felt like a pretty good matchup, even with the Pikachu. It definitely makes the matchup a lot tighter. I still think I'll echo that Night Stretcher just to get the Kyurem and
Yeah.
attach energy to it and go through. Like you don't have to sell your soul on the perfect play to showcase that. But and then Miraidon is what we featured. Let's go into Landon's winning list. For those that maybe recognize Landon's name, 2 seasons ago he won in Portland
Mhm.
with Arctina. And if everyone remembers the Squovit, the Nestash to draw into one, that thing was hopefully it's framed for him or graded or something like that because that squirrel was pulling a lot. But
That's right.
what's your initial takes here, Michael? I'm sure there's something fairly noteworthy of looking through the Winnie deck list.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will notice it as well. There's really not a ton of draw support in either of these two lists, really. I mean, obviously you've got the Mew, you've got the Pheasant and you've got the Squawkabilly, pretty typical. You've got the Fish to be able to go and grab a supporter, but not a ton outside of that. I think the difference in some of these, obviously, the second place list had Blood Moon Ursaluna. And then, I played a couple of Irdas instead of Arvins, whereas Landon's list played all Arvins. But outside of that, no real dig. Nothing really to, disrupt hands. There's no Iono, no Judge in either of these lists, no research. So they were just, relying on just being able to dig through their deck with what they had. If they really needed to draw after they got a knockout, thinning down and being able to draw with Mew and all that good stuff too. So pretty, I mean, it's vanilla. It's pretty straightforward. Well, and I will say, I think going back, I think the big thing that I really like about these lists, and while there aren't a ton of draw support, they added Secret Box. So Secret Box, I guess, is kind of in with Miraidon these days too. Both lists had it, and that in and of itself allows you to go and grab so many. I mean, I think it's funny. I remember talking way back when Secret Box came out. I was like, "Oh, this card sucks. No one's ever going to use it." And then it's just showing up time and time again to be a really solid A spec card too. One of my favorite ones. So, yeah, I don't know. A very clean, kind of straightforward list. Not surprised to see the Magneton in both of those. I don't think there's any other way to play it. And then you got to drop out the Mewtwo just because you got to put the Pikachu in. So, of course, now you've got the Air Zero, which makes Raikou even stronger as well.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, pretty cool lists. I think Miraidon's a really solid deck. We'll see what happens if people keep playing it again. Charizard will pick back up, but not surprised to see this do well at this particular tournament though.
Yeah, I think in terms of like a meta call specifically, obviously for a finalist and winning, knowing that the Lost Zone variant was going to pick up in popularity, which we talked about in the meta shares. So you have your Iron Hands. Obviously, both lists are running two, so that features. I think the Megaton is what we've desperately been missing since Flaffly rotated.
Yeah.
You just lost that consistency, which is probably how now. Of course, I'll copy a deck list, queue it into live, and I'll get nothing. So it is shocking to me, like no Iono, no Judge, or even like one research just for that little bit of draw
Right.
support. But they're really relying on, I guess, a Fleetfoot.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely the Fez and Mew. There was multiple times where drawing with Mew on stream and then Fez kind of got what they needed. I would say like your Secret Bots isn't exactly a draw supporter, but the fact that
Right.
it
Yeah.
can get everything minus a Pokemon, that is the only A spec besides Prime Catcher that is now won more than one regional. So we have Prime Catcher's list is like this tall, and then we have two with Secret Box, and then a few, just a few others with one. Not very many, obviously, but the Secret Box, I suppose, kind of is a way, allows you to piece everything together for that turn. It was, I just think, knowing that Regidrago was there, I suppose going to look at the runs, I suppose I'm still trying to figure out like Raging Bolt and Zard matchups, but I suppose if you just dodge him and he, like with anything, with the super wide meta,
Right.
if you just avoid the decks that don't exist, essentially, that's what. Just going back to the last time we really saw Miraidon pop was obviously at Worlds, where Jesse Parker's like, just imagine that Charizard doesn't exist, and if I avoid those, I'm gonna do okay. I did like the second place list featuring Blood Moon. That
Right.
was featured quite a bit, and then the Rotom also was pretty cool. A couple of games because at first I think they played, and when it first was on stream, I didn't catch it because it was the deck was max rarity. I think almost everything minus like one or two cards, which is
Yeah.
shocking. But I didn't see the Rotom was benched because I couldn't tell what it is because if it's, especially if it's the max rarity, you can't always tell. That's
Right.
where I guess I do like the min rarity when it's showcased on streams, but I get it. I like to, I guess, not fully bling out stuff, but like if I have what I have, whether it be full arts or energy, especially, or gold stadiums is what I like. But I'm never just going to go out my way to fully maximize a deck. But all of a sudden he had six cards in his hand and then the other person was going. I was like, wait, did I miss something? So I rewind it. I'm like, oh, that must be a Rotom. I can't tell, but it was the alt art Rotom. So that was pretty cool. I think, I don't know. I think in the Discord, people were asking like, "What's kind of the take as Miraidon for real?" And I was like, "Yes, I don't see this doing like the Dragapult EX that won in Europe and then just evaporated essentially. I think Miraidon will still hang around. I think it will really be defined as a meta call. I'm not sure this suddenly becomes like the third most popular deck played at Stuttgart. I think is the next regional this weekend, right? I just don't see it
Yeah.
converting something like that crazily.
I think it's one of those decks where it's still, though, it may not be as popular, but it's always going to have a good chance to win.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, with Lost Box picking back up. Like it's almost like we've reverted back in time a little bit. Lost Box is back. Iron Hands is great for that. Gardevoir is
Very,
back.
yeah.
Iron Hands is great for that. So like it has better matchups into some of these decks that others may not. And then if it can dodge, and we were talking, there's a in our local Discord, Charizard is not really as scary to some of these Miraidon players as it used to be, and especially because they put the Raichu back in as well. Like
Yeah.
there was a time where Raichu was being cut, and you didn't really have a whole lot of something that could blow up a big massive Charizard. But since they're back in, it seems to not be as intimidated by Charizard. So I don't know. I think you're right. I don't think we'll see it be like top of the meta charts ever. Because again, some people just don't want to charge generators before they go and play a regional event. But the people who are brave enough and charge up their generators enough, they're gonna probably see some success along the way too.
Yeah, and I think too with Area Zero being the main stadium now, that kind of helps Raichu kind of reach those numbers as well too. I don't think it can reach 330, but obviously it can get up there.
You mean
But the Magneton,
Raikou? You
yeah,
mean Raikou?
yeah, Raikou,
Yeah,
yeah, sorry,
yeah.
yeah,
No, you're
Raichu
good.
definitely can
Yeah,
with
Raikou.
that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of R's and yeah, just a lot of lightning on the screen. I was just gonna go into like what is Miraidon's matchup right now on Play.lim list to Zard.
I'd say
Still at
probably like 30,
35%.
yeah, 30-ish,
Yeah,
40%.
35%. But again, it's as we know, especially with the online data, is
Right.
who is piloting the deck. So
Yeah.
it was funny. We did see a funny tweet that's gained almost 70,000 views, but it was Lyrica Wisdom. We'll give him full credit. And the quote was,
Tale of two
let's talk.
bank accounts.
Yeah, the tale of two bank accounts. So we have the Kenneth Gilman was playing, I think, almost virtually. He's playing, the $450 near $500 Pikachu, his energies, nest balls, and everything. Landon had some bling, but not like everything. He definitely had a few things blinged, but it was pretty cool to see. Like I said, we talked about where Pokemon players, if they can bling their deck, they're going to.
Mhm.
It's just not gonna end. But it was a funny tweet, nevertheless. The only thing is hard is when it's on the table, you can't always recognize what is what.
Yeah, I
But
mean, just the Pikachu and the Latios alone, um, pretty pricey. They got some
yeah,
expensive stuff. Meanwhile, over there, you've got like the Sun and Moon Nest Ball, I think is where that's from.
yeah, and he was using like the old. It must have been Sun and Moon because it kind of had like a
Uh-huh.
box around the energies as well
Yeah.
too. So basic, but again, older energies definitely aren't the cheapest either. But they weren't holofoil or anything of that nature. But
They like
yeah,
their
both.
they like their promos. So it looks like the promo Miraidon maybe, and the
Yep.
promo 151 Mew.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Yeah. So both players played very well. There was some really fun, moments on stream where they happened. Definitely, as always, some top decks and just lines of play. I think I know it was in Top Cut because both Garzik and Tablemon Pablo Meza were super confused by like, well, what is he doing? And then I'm trying to remember if it was Landon's play, and then he pulled it off, and I'm like, oh, we didn't even think about that. That's such a good idea. So props to them. Great meta calls. Obviously, wasn't shown on the infographic, so I feel like Miraidon must have been around there somewhere. In that maybe 3 to 4%. But obviously, hit the matchups they needed to. And the key here is the Magneton just brings so much back into it to be able to get energies out the discard, or even get it into the active and
mhm.
force a one prize turn from your opponent.
That's right.
For Regidrago, I won't spend too much time because obviously I've gotten to live the limelight quite a bit lately. We did have one different list that came out and featured a couple new cards. So the Aloran Executor that we almost haven't really talked about ever on this, that did feature. It has a really cool second attack, is mainly what you use for. Even the first attack. What's the damage threshold on the first attack, Michael?
It's 150, and then it's you may
150.
attach any number of basic energy cards from your hand to your Pokemon in any way you like. So
Okay,
150 is not bad.
not the worst. Yeah, is able to accelerate in. The big thing here is the second attack, swinging Sveen. I don't know my opals or anything. I don't
Yeah,
know
it's got to
my
be
gem
something with
crystals
that.
or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but obviously in a big basic format, which obviously was on stream a lot, but it says flip a coin if heads, knock out your opponent's basic active Pokemon, and if tails, knock out one of your opponent's benched basic Pokemon. So either way, it's taking out a basic. The thing here with this is it's not doing damage. It's more so like your opponent's knocked out by the Roaring Moon.
Yeah.
So it gets around Pikachu, obviously, because we know what the heart ability. I already forgotten it by now. It's escaped my head, but
Yeah, something. What's it
something
called?
heart.
Resolute Heart.
Resolute heart. Okay, makes sense. And so you have that feature. I know a few people on the Twitter that said that it was completely useless, which I guess I don't know. Like, so I guess it depends still of
Yeah, I mean it depends on what you run into. So,
yeah what you run into because if you
and
flip
also
a
that the
tails
person
and
that
it.
says it's complete useless is very hot takey. So,
Oh yeah, that's right, Grant. Yes,
yeah.
Grant. Yeah, known for some hot takes. They did sacrifice a fire energy to include that, and then they also had a Terra Orb. We did see Andrew Hedrick on stream. He ran much more of the straightforward, nothing crazy. He did obviously we
Probably
couldn't see
like
his
this
deck
one.
list, but
Yeah.
I know he played it. He did not play the Owls, but he did play the 7/3 energy, And then he also threw in the one capturing aroma, which was a really, really big hot take when he won with Lugia with his one of capturing aroma.
Hmm.
I know specifically his roommate, Isaiah Chevelle, as well, too. He played Drago to Worlds with that aroma as well, too. And like that was a huge discussion before, they played at Worlds. And sometimes I felt like that within Regidrago, like searching Pokemon in general in Regidrago is always huge. Because if you don't hit the right combos to discard, or you don't hit the right Pokemon at the right time, so he went through, but this one has a whole bunch of entries. We saw the 1-1 Hoot Hoot and Noctowl continue to do very well in the tournament. I The jamming tower, I guess I get it. If there's more things like big basics with that is probably going through. The temple, I don't know. You say you cut that sooner or later, and then that's when also Lugia is very common in day 2. So still feels right. The other list has a Terra Orb, which is a new one. That can obviously get you your Ogrepons, which is good because you can search for a Terra Pokemon, but also can get you. It's not an Ultra Ball, so you can go get your Dragapult, for example, or your lone Executor, and that basically it. It's Ogrepon in that list, unless you're playing something drastic. But none of them cut the cancel and clone, and then normal counts of basically everything. We did not see the. Oh, I forgot. They played a Pokestop. I won a Pokestop,
Yeah.
which I think afterwards when James Cox had basically like a master class is what I do it when he does those like hour-long sessions. He did one
Yeah.
with Bradner and they talked through everything. And I know before Louisville, I literally listened to that to work while I was doing other stuff in the background. I replayed it like 3 times during the week just to memorize everything that he says for the Lions plays. So James, please, if you're watching this, please do more of that content because it is literally a master class that's free. It's pretty cool. So Regidrago is not going to be going anywhere, right, Michael? I think it's going to be around for the
Yep.
next few months.
Yep, I'd say so, which means that all of us Lugia stands need to figure out a way to make it back in this meta.
Yeah. I'd say the Dunsparce, that your colorless Pokemon, don't have a weakness, but
Yeah, I
that thing
know.
rotated.
Yeah,
That thing would definitely
unfortunately.
help. Yeah. So pretty fun. We did not see any like of our predictions. We didn't see iDragon on stream. We didn't see
No.
Arch Aladon. I'm trying to remember. Definitely Lost Zone. What was another one? Cerulege. We did
Uh,
see. We
yeah.
did see Cerulege
Okay.
early in day 1, and then it never existed. The cool, probably the first one was Kobe Kawasaki that plays out in uh, tabletop in Washington. He played a very unique pile, is what I'll call it. It had a 1-1
It's
Charmander Charizard EX. It had a 1-1, or
oh.
no, was it 2-2 Pidgey and Pidgey out EX line? And then he also
Oh
featured
yeah.
Greninja as well too. So he was
Mm-hmm.
running 2 waters, 3 fires, and like a double turbo. It was wild, but it was pretty cool because he was. I think that was the first match on stream, and it was playing against the Cerulege Palkia line. Um, so I don't think Cerulege is quite there. I think get the V stars out of here, and I feel like
Yeah, I
Cerulege
think it
actually.
changes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it definitely changes because then it's really coming down to because the biggest problem that we face with the V's is they're already big basics and then they just evolve to a bigger basic
Right.
essentially, which
Yeah.
aka stage 1, so they're 280, 270 HP, etc., etc., and they have broken abilities obviously with the V star powers or abilities, and then so once those get out of here, then it really kind of comes back to your big basic EXs, your baby basics, which would be like your ancient box, I suppose. A lost origin would be rotated, so no more lost box. And then you get into like your evolving of like a Gardevoir. How that survives, I don't know, but the ability's so busted that, and Pokemon loves to print broken psychic cards, so we'll see. But I feel like Cerulege is much better like after those V stars kind of get out of there because then you're basically single prize state. You're missing Radiant Greninja, but I'm still sure there's some way, somehow, that you can get a bunch of energy in the discard pile every turn. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I think overall, though, when we go back and we look at just the top 8, I think it's unfortunately it's pretty telling of where we might be for the next little while. I know I had high hopes, and to be fair, locally, I know some buddies who have been doing well with Hydrogen. Yeah, I think Cerulege has been doing pretty cool on some online meta. So again, maybe maybe it'll do better in the next few regionals, and this is just one of those where it was the first regional of the new format. Um, Hopefully they're not just meh. Otherwise, it's going to be a really boring couple of months. But it feels like it did this time last year as well. When I think, what was it, Paradox Rift we had for quite a while, right? Something like that,
Yeah,
maybe.
the initial start of Paradox Rift wasn't so bad, and then like
It just
months 4,
drug on, yeah.
5, and 6 drug on, and then that was a struggle. I still think it's early. I still think there's definitely chefs in the kitchen.
Yep.
And if everyone takes it the approach of like what Kobe did and showcase on stream, like sure, let's jam in a Greninja EX, a Pidgeot EX, and a Charizard EX into one deck.
Mm-hmm.
And he was able to pull off the lines of play. I believe he made day 2. I can't remember he finished in the money, but I definitely know he was probably top 128. So
Yeah.
the only other note is we had a friend of the pod, Eric from the Beach Court podcast. So if you haven't listened to them, please go give them a listen as well too. Just make sure we're your first listen if of the day when we release. But they release on a different day. But he had a good tweet here that we've just pulled up. If you want to summarize it, because we did see this was the first tournament after they changed the threshold to qualify for day 2. So I'll preface it with that.
Yeah. So he wrote, and originally, and Clifton also jumped in and said this isn't necessarily correct too. There was a different simulation ran, but just in general, it says 304 players in day 2 for Sacramento, but only 88 players have a chance to win. With a final statement of yikes. Clifton, I think, looks like he corrected him just a bit. Simulation run shows at least 128 players can make it into asymmetric cut. Then Eric said that must include players with 17 points. So regardless, still a pretty significant amount of players in day 2 that have literally virtually no shot. And this is one of those situations where it can't be Pokemon TCG without a little bit of drama and hot takes and things like that too. So even Josh from the Shuffle Squad, this is a pretty bold statement. The new tournament structure actually makes playing the game so miserable. I don't know. Maybe for some it does, but for others, and there's some good L takes, some good W takes along the way, but like, it's just, if you really want to play more Pokemon, this makes it a little bit more easy for you to do so. But if you want to play some Pokemon and also win, then it's not necessarily, I don't know. It is what it is. I'm sure you've seen the discourse on Twitter about IDing into day 2 and how silly that is. Like, it is what it is. Just play Pokemon, have fun, and let people do their thing. If they want to make day 2 and that's all they want to do, then great. And if you want to win it all, then you're gonna still win. You're gonna still beat those people who ID into day 2 too. So, I don't know. Some hot takes there. Interesting stats in general, but yeah.
I think this is exactly kind of what the expectation was
Yeah.
when they changed it and lowered by 2 points. So basically, kind of not the exact same threshold, because we were always guaranteed 9 rounds last season, or the past quite a few seasons.
Yeah.
So with this, especially were tournaments that we don't have 2,048 players. Like, I just think there is going to be a lot more because 16 points in theory isn't as difficult, because those ties maybe aren't as significant. We did see someone get in there with 404. So awesome. Props to them. Went undefeated in day 1, I guess, is what they can say. I think when it gets back to the bigger thresholds, which who knows? Like, I think we saw early on, right, the boom and the amount of players. I still think Louisville, with the hurricane situation in Florida at that time, I think that's why our numbers when I went out to Louisville were so drastically off of what RK9 showed for registrations. But I think that this, I don't call it a problem. I just think there is going to be a lot more players playing in day 2, because that's what Pokemon wanted. It was kind of one of those things where they didn't really fix the issue of, we just want to know, for top players that is, so a small percentage of the tournament, obviously, if there's 1,700 players, not everyone's going to be making that top cut. They just wanted to know of what's guaranteed to make it. So if we advance to day 2, We just want to know if we go undefeated, we have a chance. And Louisville, I know last episode with the Uncommon Energy with the Zool and Chip, they went into it where that was like not going to happen, right? Most tournaments, that's just not going to happen. It's like 95% certain that we're not going to have a Louisville situation. But making day 2 is a lot of people's initial goals.
Yeah.
And especially when so many people are new into the game, heck yeah, that's still one of my goals, right? Now, granted, yeah, it is different, but that's the prerogative. I think the bigger thing was towards the top end. Now people can do that ID to guarantee X money slot, and I think that's where things can kind of get wonky. I know Clemente Clemente, the host of the Like Rage podcast, he had a good comment on Rahul's tweet of like, this should be the discussion. Do you ID to guarantee top 16 money? And if you lose, you could crash and burn and go to top 64, basically walk away with nothing. Or do you play it to try to obviously get into top cut, which contains a lot of money.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I don't think they're going to do another format, or not format. I don't think they're going to do another structural change, but we'll see after the season of the outcry and maybe the popularity with the huge growth that they're expecting. Maybe that was poor hindsight, and that has to be over 2,048 players.
Yeah,
is my hot take, I guess.
But all that said, just have fun playing, and if you are ultra competitive and you have a chance of winning, then you will do well. But speaking of have fun, Aaron, before we jump into our final couple segments here, did want to adjust a couple of lists that we thought were pretty cool. And clearly players who had a lot of fun. The first one, I think you saw this one. We were able to find it. Charlie Locklear went 7-1-4 with Reggie's.
Yes.
It's here. It's back. Reggie's so back, baby, right?
Yeah, I loved playing Reggie's back when Bustalugia was out there. It was a very good, one prize deck. The kind of the assembling of Exodius for those Yu-Gi-Oh players are getting your 5 Reggies in play, and then the very busted Regigigas ability to accelerate energy back. That's when you could play Scoop Up Net and redo it again, which was even crazier. But yeah, playing 2/2 of every Reggie out there from Astral Radiance. All those cards are probably a combined 20 cents out of a bulk bin. 2 Pikachu EX, obviously, because that's what you're trying to feature as your attacker. And then looks like a Squawk, right, to get some stuff
Squawk
from the discard.
Red Ninja and bundle.
Yeah, Red Ninja, and then the Hyperblur for your I did this 3 episodes ago as well too. Your Hyperblower ability on your.
It's switching the active with the benched Pokemon.
Yeah. Iron Bundle, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, you needed the name. Sorry,
you didn't have me. Yeah, I did it 3 episodes ago too. I remember Delibird. But yeah, so and then you feature the Area Zero Underdefs. You have to play 4 of those because you have to win the Stadio more.
Yeah, exactly.
And then obviously research. And this one was curious. I'd have to test more out, but the 3 Cypher Maniacs, like, that actually threw me for a loop in a way. I was not expecting that, but maybe that's how they were trying to maybe get into the Area Zero if they had things down. But I don't know how you're doing this without already having Area Zero in play. But yeah, research a boss. No counter catchers in this list that I saw. The 2 Heavy Ball, and then Earthen Vessel is really good because you're looking for obviously that basic energy, where previous iteration was a lot of the special energy. And then a Mist, a Luminous, and no gift energy, just 2 grass, 2 lightning, 2 steel, 2 water. So you're really focusing on trying to attack with Greninja and Pikachu, and the Reggie's, all but Reggie Steel. Yes, all but Reggie Steel take a backseat. Yeah. This is playing the Precious Trolley, though, which is a new A spec, so that is pretty cool because it literally says fill your bench with as many as you can. If you have Area Zero in play and a Pikachu, all Reggies are coming out, so I suppose maybe in a really cool way you could attack turn 1 going second, because Pikachu doesn't have that stipulation, whereas the Terapagos does. But I'm excited, man. If we, and especially with the next regional this weekend over in Stuttgart, Germany, Reggie's usually kind of, there's a certain Christian Fontenot that was over. He had a really funny tweet of, yes, I've seen the Reggie list. Yes, I plan to test with him. And yes, I have my own thoughts on the list as well, too. So we'll see if he queues up Reggie's to go through. And I think you have an interesting Lugia list.
Yeah.
You can touch on this because it is. I looked at it and it is wild.
I don't have thoughts other than the fact that it just blows my mind that they made this work and finished 53rd at
Oh, I
Sacramento.
didn't even know they too.
They
Okay,
didn't just
that
say
makes it
two.
even
They
better.
finished top 64, which is
Wow,
crazy. Like
that is nuts.
I saw this picture and I just went, huh? You know, it's like the cat meme, huh?
Oh yeah,
Huh?
yeah.
Like, you know, I'd start looking. I'm like, all right, cool, Lugia. I see two, little sketchy, but you do you. 2 Archeops, not 4, but 2. Again, I'll reiterate, not 4, but 2, which is crazy to me because Lugia works by getting Archeops into the discard pile. And when you only have 2, you've significantly reduced your chances. But it worked, apparently, because they finished 53rd. There was Blood Moon, again, pretty normal. Terapagos, huh?
Yeah,
Then you keep going. Wellspring, okay, all right, I see. Ditto, which, I mean, I kind of can get that. Then you got the... This is where it gets weird. This is where it just gets bizarre. Then you start... I mean, it was already weird enough by the fact that there's only 2 Archeops in the deck. But then it goes into Fan Rotom. Then you're playing a 3-3... Or excuse me, there's 2 Fan Rotoms. There's a 3-3 Owl line.
Mm-hmm.
Mew EX, pretty typical. Phasmidipity, pretty typical. And then a 2-2 Roki Greninja line.
Makes sense in Lugia, right? Like, why would you not play
exactly, right?
Yeah, this guy's playing chess.
Yeah, it's wild to me. Now, to be fair, it makes sense. Like, at least you can attack with Greninja because you... I'll jump ahead to the energy counts, but he had a water. And if that didn't work, if that were prized, you have the legacy energy. So, you know, hey, cool. Interestingly enough, though, the energy count was 1. Well, here, we'll start from the right side. 2 boomerang energy, which, to be honest with you, I forget what that energy even does.
That's cool for Greninja, specifically Greninja.
Yeah.
Is because it is, if it's discarded in the way that it attacks, it actually stays on the Pokemon. So you don't have to discard it with that. It's different than Wellspring Mask because Wellspring doesn't say discard; it says shuffle 3. Yeah. So it does go back in, but
yeah,
a cool concept over it. Actually, probably made a once we get Limitless updated. Probably has a Limitless spot where nothing has ever played Boomerang Energy before.
And the nice thing is you can accelerate it where you need it to as well. So even if you did have to attach it to the Wellspring and put it back into the deck, you can still accelerate it right back. Then you got 4 Jet, 4 DTE, 1 Legacy, 1 Water Energy. Very interesting. They chose to play Area Zero Under Depths as their stadiums of choice instead of the typical Mesagoza. Makes sense, though, for this list. You've got the Terra Pokemon you needed. You want to have a big old bench so you can do what you got to do. So we'll throw in some Area Under Depth. Then this is where it gets pretty interesting-ish, maybe-ish. But 4 Buddy Buddy. Never seen that in Lugia until this one, but makes sense as to why that's there. 4 Nest Ball. 4 Ultra Ball. 2 Rare Candy, because you can't evolve to Greninja without it, which is still so wild to me.
Yeah.
That there's a Rare Candy in Lugia. Then you got Earthen Vessel. Supporter count. We've got 1 Professor Research, 2 Boss's Order, 2 Iono, and 2 Jock.
2 Jock. Okay, so 1 is just a Florida and 1 is like the
SIR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, all right. I couldn't tell what that one was because I was like, man, how you without the aromas, which I believe the Buddy Buddy Puff, and it makes sense. Like kind of going through this because you're really just trying to find Fan Rotom is what you're really trying to find that turn 1 to get your Froakies. Wait,
exactly.
No, it's colorless. Excuse me. So you have to get your Hoot line set up, which then with getting a Terra Pokemon on your bench kind of starts to feel things in.
Exactly. Yeah.
I did not realize they made top 64. Like that actually blows my mind.
I mean, like when you think about the deck in theory, it's not, you can't look at it like your typical Lugia list where I got to get Archeops in the discard pile. Like they're not so much concerned about that. They're thriving off of 1 Archeops for the most part in this point. Like
the ability is busted. It's still gets you 2 energy out of your deck. So it's probably more so like a Terra, like it's more so like a Terra attacking deck
Right.
with the Wellspring and the Tropicos,
Right.
but it's kind of supported by your Lugia. Like that's almost like your support cards
Yeah.
as like a supporter would be. Is you're really trying just to focus and get the 1V star off to get the Archeops back in
Exactly.
play.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, because Noctowl is from your hand, so you're never getting Noctowl. So yeah, you're
Yeah.
just really trying to focus on getting that, or even like a Blood Moon, I guess. It depending on what it is when you're going through a Tropicos, I guess that would qualify as colorless too. But super innovative. This is a homebrew
Yeah.
that I talk about. Like I just wish the Limitless is so good for the community, and I love Limitless. Like you will not see me say a bad word about it, but I think it probably, if anything, just makes more players more robotic instead of like cooking this up in top 64. That is
Yeah.
so awesome. We need to should reach out and throw a DM this player's way to
Yeah.
see if they could get on, because it's like how what what was the vision that he had when he woke up in a cold sweat at 2 a.m. Like, oh, I should play this for Sacramento. But
Let's play
props.
Greninja and Lugia.
Yeah, I want to see more. I want to see more of this do well.
Yeah,
I
good for
love the
them.
homebrew stuff. Yeah, I love the homebrew
Absolutely.
stuff.
Absolutely.
Uh, so that will wrap up kind of more. I want to give a special shout out to the PCS members that played in Sacramento. I know Andy traveled from the East Coast and went through. I believe he was in Colorado all week on a work trip, but so that made it out. He then paired up with Brett and Jose, and Brett and Jose both made day two. So props to him. I think Jose has made a few day twos now as well this season. Brett made his first day two, and also got a picture. And he played against the winner. He played against Landon as well too. And then Andy was on a winning in with Lugia versus Regidrago, which you say that the math is there to favor Lugia, but he unfortunately suffered the double brick back to
It
back
happens.
games, which I told him every single deck that happens. That's not a Lugia thing. That is a Regidrago thing. That I go back to my very first round where paired against Roaring Moon, and won game one with exactly how I did. You feature a lot of Radiant Zard, and you almost don't really ever try to attack with Regidrago because they're weak to grass. You just try to feature, get a couple attacks off with Radiant Zard. But then games 2 and 3, it was start Halucha and pass. And then game 3 was start Radiant Zard, pray the Pokestop hits something to do a ball search, and it doesn't, and get donked the next thing. So proud of everyone that won, representing the community well. It is kind of cool back to go through and just look at specifically players in ours of their first tournament experience or major experience, and just as they get to play more, their results get better and better. I look at myself as well too, so I'm excited that there was a more out there, and we'll see. I don't think anyone's traveling to Germany over Thanksgiving weekend, but we do have a little bit of a hiatus in the U.S. region, but obviously more to come the rest of this season. So I'm happy that it was made it out. Did want to note for Team Lethal Strike, again, if anyone were to play in a tournament of theirs, they have a tournament series on Thursdays. If you do play in that, please send me your deck list and your result, and I'll send some extra TCG Live codes your way. I did have Z-Man Cuddles, which is known for streaming a lot of GLC. I did throw down a Conquest challenge his way. So I said what I was thinking of was the Apprentice versus the Maestro. I have played maybe 20-ish to 25 games of GLC. I suppose probably a lot more versus myself because I play a lot of GLC versus myself. Challenged him to a duel. We're going to do tabletop. I will not say who we found to be an editor, but I am basically calling this person an angel. And this person will be able to do whatever credit, whatever they want to do for the video of plugging their stuff to get reached out. I will give them full permission to plug whatever cool thing that they have. But yeah, I challenged him in terms of battling, like, who's the GLC maestro within the Team Lethal Strike community. So I'm excited for that. We should have the video up sometime, maybe late December, because obviously when you do tabletop mix, particularly GLC, and you're not Tricky Jim, there's a lot that goes into tabletop content. So I am forever grateful for the person that reached out in terms of helping out with the pod. So I will give them special props once this release is going out, then and they'll get their plug. The anything else Sacramento, or I guess how about this? Since we do actually have a tournament this upcoming, put you right on the spot. This was not in our show notes, but any thoughts of maybe what we see over in Stuttgart, Germany?
You know, as much as I hate to admit it, I think Drago's poised to do well yet again. I don't see a ton changing in a week's time from last week to this week. So, yeah, I'm gonna go with Drago. I hate to say it,
Okay.
but I'm gonna go with Drago. Sorry,
Okay.
Aaron.
I'll have to figure out what to make that Monday evening and for toasting it again.
I know.
I think it still will be predominant. I would say it seems, and maybe it's just different with the production backside of things, but Europe does tend to showcase a little bit more out there decks, which I do appreciate for the stream. So we might get to see some different decks make it on stream. I still think in terms of meta relevancy, I still think a little bit of the same old, same old. We'll see within this 1 week gap of Miraidon kind of being not very high if that has a big move up the meta list, which then, as you said, Charizard could go up. So yeah, maybe I'll throw Zard down. I
All
still
right.
think Regidrago definitely goes through, but
Yeah.
maybe there's a Zard is so experimental because they kind of have that deck space, and to me, let's sacrifice the Duskull line because that's just maybe not as meta prevalent anymore. But let's maybe see if we can find something a little bit wonky there to go
Okay.
through. So we'll see. That is nice. Obviously, there's a lot of football happening this weekend, so I'm going to try to catch whatever I can for the Germany. But as always, it'll probably be after the stream ends, and then I can fast forward through a lot of the downtimes. That should cover our meta relevant talks here for the PCS update. I did fail to DM all the Patreon members, but you will see a DM from me about the shirt orders for our Ultra Ball and Master Ball tiers for those that have been there for 6 months, which should be basically about everyone in those tiers. In December, we will do our bi-monthly giveaway, and I'm going to give 2 giveaways out there. So I'll have more on that later. I was able to get some product in recently, so I'll showcase those. I will. The only stipulation on that is whoever wins the first giveaway I'll pull their name out of the generator, so they are not able to double dip because it is the month of giving here coming up here in December. So we should be thankful. This month, obviously, we should always be thankful, but then obviously we'll give out some gifts in December. I did want to know. I don't know if you caught that Friday morning, Michael, but I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our community here. Jeremy in particular had messaged early morning Friday, and like I was just getting my first cup of coffee in, and I was about started ready to tear up a little bit, but he just wanted to say, hey, I want to give a huge shout out to Aaron and everyone in the PCS community as a whole. He's been playing since 2018, 2019. He's been searching for a community for years. His locals are very isolated in their groups and not really maybe approachful of letting new people join. He said this community has been so welcoming and fun. And he said, then he gets into the formats of just being so wide, which I hear Jeremy every time. It's like, man, what do I really want to play? I'll just play more Regidrago. And he said, that being said, last night was so much fun. This was going back to Thursday because we had 7-8 people bouncing around in there watching the matches and everything. And he goes, last night was so fun, and why I continue to fall back in love with Pokemon cards. Thanks for running the tournament, Aaron, and I can't wait to be continued being a part of the community. So Jeremy, thank you so much. That really hit me in the feels Friday morning, and I had a load of fun once I was able to actually showcase the stream Thursday. It was really stressful for those 25 minutes that I was not streaming because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But I'll say this for being thankful for the PCS community is it's probably goes back to the foundation that particularly Pokebrews and Drew started with. So I'm going to give a special shout out to them. When I joined, it was very welcoming. I'll shout out, RC and Oscar that are obviously prevalent within ours, but there's a lot of people out there that made me feel so welcome when I first was brand new And I will never forget the day where Drew sent me a Limitless link to look at deck list, and I was stunned. I was like, I didn't know this. I thought everything you just Arceus V-Star is really good. Why not pair it with Single Strike or Shifu? It was, yeah. I wish I should have exported a few of my old homebrew list out, because it was not good as the one that we had on the stream just a little bit ago for Lugia. So it's probably laid in the foundation, and I'd say anyone that is listening that isn't maybe in our Discord, we've had a few new people join, but that's what we're about. We're not about judging. It's come in. There's a place for a little bit of everything. We have a section for Pocket now, because obviously that's picked up. We have video games, which we're talking about the Shiny Rayquaza, and I was like, how is this not a 7-star rate? It's just a 5-star. But yeah, I am super super happy that people have found a place. And as long as I'm around within the PCS scene, like, that's how we'll continue to do it, because that's just kind of, like I said, our founding fathers. That's what they wanted to. Is it is it is competitive, but it's more so the casual side of just homies being homies, and hanging out and talking Pokemon, which is what we all love, right? Because we've been a part of it for, for me, it's been part of my life. Of 25 years was Gold and Silver. It's been part of my life for about 28 years, which is wild. But Gold and Silver is really what started to kick it off. The Pokemon Blue was fun. So that will do it for our show tonight. Thank you, our Patreon members, for helping support the show. Obviously, you can find us searching anywhere for PCS, PCS Podcast, across all platforms. Michael, where can the people find more of you?
Yeah, as always, Miraidon PTCG on Twitter.
Have a great Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Wear some loose pants and stretch out the waist here, and then get right back to it of shedding that off. But safe travels, and hope everyone's able to see the family that they need to see. Take care, everyone. Talk to you next week.
See ya.